Right, since it's my last segment on LotusEaters.com, I thought I would keep up the tradition of being the bearer of bad news and say that all of the conspiracy theorists were vindicated. Turns out the entire Southport trial was cover-up. And it's been admitted by government officials now. So, Keir Starmer, yes again, instantiating a two-tier standard of justice and completely betraying all of the bereaved families of those girls. And it just keeps getting worse. Before we continue, I would like to remind you that we do have Islander 3 on sale here because things are very demoralizing these days. And so we thought we'd dedicate a hard asset product to raising a critical consciousness of how we can restore our culture, our faith, our families, our aesthetics, and people that have worked here have poured their heart and soul into it. It's beautiful. It's $14.99 and the distributor issues have been fixed and people in the US have already got their copies. So if you order it, should be shipped to you in due course. Now, moving on with the news. So what we've got here, there was a trial the other day of a chap, very strange looking. His name is Jordan Wilkes and he was inspired by Axel Rudakabana to stab a 9-year-old girl in the neck while she was playing in the stairwell in his apartment block.
God, these stories, man.
Yeah. Now, you're reacting like this because it's appalling.
Yes. Well, it's because I've got 2 daughters.
Yeah. This was August 2024, during the riots.
Didn't even hear about it.
No. So other than the BBC doing some light reporting on the fact that he had done this, why were we not told about his inspirations? Because it's not like Axel Rudakabana, where he was 17 when he committed the crimes. Yeah. Wilkes is 29.
Why did... I don't even want to know.
I'll get into why they've kept a lid on this, because it seems to be the sort of trend that I've been covering on my show and the podcast for a while, where the government sees its duty to manage the febrile social conditions of imported diversity by unilaterally disarming the native population anytime that the diversity goes out and does something very predictable. His first victim was playing with a friend on the stairwell outside his flat in Christchurch in Dorset. Fueled by thoughts of fulfilling a sick fantasy, and this is according to the Mirror reporting, he opened his door and stabbed the girl in the neck, shoulder, and knee with a penknife without saying anything. She and her friend managed to flee to the safety of another flat, but the wounds to the girl's shoulder and knee were so deep the bone could be seen. She's since been able to make a full recovery, mercifully. Wilkes was arrested by armed police who raided his flat a short time after the attack. They recovered a clump of the girl's hair that he cut as a trophy, or had actually ripped from her scalp in his attempt to try and hold her in place to keep stabbing her. Bournemouth Crown Court heard he had watched YouTube videos and podcasts on crimes involving the killing of children before stabbing the girl as she played outside his home in August. These included the killing of 3 girls at a dance class in Southport last year by second-generation Rwandan Axel Rudakabana, the murder of James Bolger, and several American high school massacres. Hours before the attack, he watched a video on someone called Aidan Fucci, who murdered a 13-year-old girl by stabbing her 114 times. Now, they're focusing on this reporting because it's the online material they're saying inspired him to do this attack. So what they're going to do is clamp down on your freedom of speech on social media platforms because men like this and Axel Rudakabana decided to stab innocent children.
It's going to be the end of the true crime genre, isn't it?
Yes, quite. He was found guilty and he's going to be sentenced in April, so keep your eyes out for that. But again, why did we not hear about this properly at the time? Why was it not broadcast while the riots were going on? A literal
well, you know
killer.
why. You know why.
Yes, it's because it was a cover-up. And do you know who agrees with me? Jonathan Hall, KC, the head of the government's independent review of terror legislation. Mm-hmm. He himself has said that, quote, withholding information could have been far more prejudicial than just making the facts public. So he is saying Keir Starmer could have prejudiced the trial in Southport by withholding information from the public.
Which is precisely the reason he claimed that he withheld the information in the first place.
Exactly. So legally speaking, he didn't have to do that, even though they keep appealing to the law. Yeah. Hall wrote, quote, the failure by the authorities to spell out basic and sober facts about the attacker led to a contagious disinformation about a murderous Muslim asylum seeker. Well, he was the son of asylum seekers, and question marks over his affinity for Islam. He certainly was obsessed with Muslim terror attacks, as we know, as Prevent No and didn't step in.
A copy of an Al-Qaeda training manual too. So
yeah, and he was obsessed with the London Bridge attacks and the Manchester Arena bombing.
I'm actually happy to say that he's not, as far as we can tell, a Muslim. I mean, he didn't, go to the mosques. He didn't, give zakat or whatever.
There is the allegation that he was attending mosque while in Belmarsh prison.
Right. Okay. We don't know, but the fact that there's such an open question over it, I'm happy to say, okay, we'll put that to the side, right? Because it doesn't necessarily have to be any part of the motivation or anything like that. It
clearly has inspired him insofar as jihadist attacks provided have provided a template for it. So the idea that this was just all dangerous disinformation, one, not true, two, spread in lieu of actual information being put out by Keir Starmer, who was in Southport for all of 3 seconds before he scarpered because he was heckled by the locals. And Hall said, I would go further. It led to dangerous fictions that could have been far more prejudicial to the prosecution of Ruda Cabana than some of the true facts which were suppressed in the name of contempt of court. Had there been a trial, jurors could have entered court with the impression that Ruda Cabana was a Muslim asylum seeker, and more toxically, that the authorities were determined to hush it up. Hall said it would have been far better for authorities to provide an accurate lead than ineffectual near silence. He wrote that the digital age meant that the current Contempt of Court Act, passed in 1981 under Thatcher's government, needed examination. And he's not the only critic of Keir Starmer and his conduct during the Southport trials. The Times have conducted interviews with the families. Now, the families have complained because Keir Starmer's Attorney General, the same one who personally intervened to bring the case against Tommy Robinson and put him in prison, this Lord Hermer, the same one who oversaw the Chagos deal as well, just for our American viewers, he rejected calls for the Court of Appeal to review the length of Ruda Cabana's sentence because the parents feel it's not long enough because he could actually be let out of prison.
Yeah.
In his, early 70s?
I mean, the fact that he's still alive is a crime against humanity, but anyway.
Quite. So the Times conducted a series of interviews with the Southport families, and I will spare some of the details, of course, because they detail here how they actually found their daughters.
I can't even imagine.
No, it's brutal. But I am going to read one detail, just so you can see what Keir Starmer and the Uniparty's policies put these families through, right? So, Alder Hey Hospital in Liverpool has a bereavement suite that allows the families to spend time, and this is of baby King's family, before the funeral. We spent a week with her, and she was perfect. It was like she was asleep. She had her pyjamas on, there were night lights, and it was like she was asleep. Even though it was hard for us at first, we now know, for us, it was the right thing to do. I held her hand, all the family came, we got her christened. We were supposed to get her christened age 2, but we did it in the suite, and the whole family were there. Everyone could say their goodbyes the way they wanted to. On the last day, her mother and father did a final bedtime routine, read her Jack and the Beanstalk, and kissed her goodbye, and that's how we're going to remember her.
Yep.
So, none of the parents, as you can understand, have gone back to work yet. David and Jenny, Elsie's parents, have set up a charity, which you can go and donate to. It's Elsie's Story. Starmer has announced a public inquiry, which the family support, but they, of course, are saying that the prison sentence wasn't long enough and they've been basically shut out of the entire process, and that Keir Starmer did not stay long enough to give his condolences. The Home Office have done a review on the failures of Prevent. Now, Prevent, for those who have been watching my show, would know has basically been ideologically captured by a 700-strong Muslim activist network in the Home Office, and have all but refused to monitor Islamic terrorism, but have instead been putting people like you, our viewers, on a far-right watch list for reading Douglas Murray in 1984. Not exaggerating. Well, the review found this. The Prevent review of Axel Ruda Cabana contained spelling mistakes, which is why they had no follow-up.
What, because of a spelling mistake?
Genuinely.
Wait, how did that work?
Like, the people that were running his case file were so incompetent that after the multiple referrals...
Oh, they couldn't spell his name right or something like that. Right. Oh, my God.
Yes. The review concluded officers had prematurely dismissed the threat he posed on each of the 3 occasions he was flagged to Prevent between December 2019 and April 2021. The police have missed chances to stop him because of spelling mistakes. Prevent officers misspelled Ruda Cabana's name on his 2nd and 3rd referrals, which led to the premature closure of his case because officers weren't able to see his previous referrals on the system. We have, ideologically bankrupt morons running everything, leading to the murder of children. Ruda Cabana's first name came to the attention of police in April 2019. His name first came to the attention of police, where he would have been 12 after phoning the National Crime Agency to report bullying and saying he'd taken a knife into school. But the account conflicts with the Lancashire Police's version of events, where they say their first interaction with Ruda Cabana came in October 2019 when he was 13 because he contacted Childline to make similar remarks, so he kept doing this. The National Crime Agency confirmed the Home Office inaccurately stated the agency had been in contact with Ruda Cabana directly, saying the NCA became aware of information about Axel Ruda Cabana in October 2019. The information was shared with policing, and Ruda Cabana was visited by local officers. So the police, social workers kept showing up to the home. He had been expelled from school for carrying a knife, for attacking students. He had been referred to Prevent 3 times, and yet they dropped the ball, they kept misspelling his name, and ideological forces within the Home Office got a bit too uncomfortable with Ruda Cabana and other Islamic terrorists because it painted Islam in a bad light. And Prevent are also continuing the cover-up because there are parallels with this to Abi Harbi Ali. For those who don't know, that was the son of Somalian diplomats who murdered Sir David Amess MP in his constituency in Southend-on-Sea in late 2021. And his daughter, Katie Amess, has been fighting an absolute crusade at the expense of her entire private life to try and get, as well, a national inquiry into this, because she's saying, hang on a minute, it's all well and good to say prevent drop the ball here, because Abi Harbi Ali met with prevent officers once in a McDonald's in Croydon, and then they were like, nothing more to see here, like 6 months later.
Where is the accountability?
Right, I'm
Why
sorry.
aren't people losing their jobs?
I used to work in mobile phone complaints in a call centre, right, and we held ourselves to higher standards than this guff.
Yeah. These are the people that are running our government, using our money, allowing just Islamic terrorists to roam free.
Not one single person has been fired from this, have they?
No.
God damn it, man.
I know. It's like the rape gangs all over again. The people that administered local Labour councils are now seniors in a Home Office. They're advisors to Yvette Cooper.
Right, the place that I was working at, we took contracts from different companies, and I won't name any of the companies, but one of the departments was doing such a bad job handling the complaints that the company pulled out of the contract. So, again, higher standards than what our government expects from
There's actually some sort of consequence.
Yeah.
There's a consequence to it.
Yeah, so the first meeting took place for Abi Harbi Ali on the 6th of November 2014, and it was dropped with little to no follow-up if you read the full Prevent review, which is available on the government website, on the 5th of June 2015, 6 years before he stabbed David Amos to death. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has denied Katie Amos's request to have a national inquiry, and it's because, one, it will turn over too many stones at the Home Office, showing just how deep the rot has gone with Muslim activists there.
That's why we want the inquiry.
Yes, but they don't want the inquiry, because what would that put off?
Well,
The Muslim vote.
But the thing is, it'd also make Labour basically culpable for all of this.
Yeah, and the Conservatives.
Well, at this point, I'd be happy if they would be willing to split the Muslim vote, get them to go all to their own ethnic and sectarian religious parties.
They would do anyway.
It's going to happen.
They're going to do it, so why not do it sooner rather than later? If only because to the idiot Lib Dem voter who still doesn't see the problem, seeing that there are just active parties who are campaigning purely against your interests in favour of their own, might be a little bit of a wake-up call, and maybe parties like Labour and even Reform will stop having to feel the need to bow down to these people.
The existence of George Galloway should have been enough of that example, but no, okay, we're going to have the Muslim party.
Well, there are now sectarian pro-Gaza MPs, thanks to Rupert Lowe's exile, on parity with Reform MPs. There's 4 of each. Yep. So, as much as Reform want to be a beachhead in Parliament, you are...
We counting Jeremy Corbyn amongst those?
You can do, but he's not actually like a practicing... If you do, they outnumber.
We know.
He's not actually a practicing...
He's part of the Independent Alliance.
I know.
So technically, they outnumber him. You're right.
I know, yeah.
So Yvette Cooper denied this. Katie called the investigation to prevent failures has already been taken place. Another useless paper review conducted by a person of their choice. She's taking legal action against Essex Police and the Home Office, and she has already as well suggested she might have to do it against the Conservative Party because all of David's so-called friends and colleagues got up after his murder and acted as if a tweet had killed him, because Mark Francois said we need David's law to crack down on online speech. And ever since, when she's interacted with the Home Office or the Conservative Party, she has said that she was told, if you don't like what we've done, sue us. Contemptible treatment of this woman. I'm going to play a short clip of her just at the press conference, just so you can see, again, exactly what the government has put these families through.
There are no words to describe the unbelievable pain of losing a father in such a brutal and a senseless way. From the moment that I woke up on October the 15th, 2021, my whole world was shattered beyond repair. My father, Sir David Amos, was not just a public servant. He was my protector, my guide, my greatest champion, and above all, my friend.
Take your time.
Right, I'm just going to stop there because, yet again, this is what they're putting these people through just to protect their own little ethnic and religious fiefdoms, right? Also, just to remind you all, when David's colleagues were recently asked about this was Mike Freer, I think it was late last year, he was asked on Julia Hartley-Brewer's show after his constituency office had been firebombed by pro-Gaza protesters. He said, well, we actually don't know the motivation of David Amos's killer.
Oh, don't we?
Yeah, no, he said he did it because David Amos had voted to intervene in Syria and Libya.
Yeah. I was going to say, I thought we actually did know exactly.
Yeah, we do, yeah. No, what they don't want to do is say it out loud.
Right, yeah.
So all the political class, again, abject traitors. Now, the government could just stop importing jihadists. They could stop importing Islamist sectarians. They could stop all of this tomorrow. Instead, Keir Starmer's changing the law, and it's not going to class Rudy Cabana as a terrorist.
I don't mean to laugh, but like, this is... It,
what?
Oh my god,
Yeah.
It's just like a bad joke.
Yeah. Instead, what they're doing is they're purposefully freeing up extra prison cells in case there's another riot.
Oh, well, there we go. I mean...
Because they realise that they are gerrymandering the demographics, which then exerts democratic pressure in favour of those sectarian Islamist MPs, but also that there's going to be sort of ethno-religious vigilante gangs fighting in the streets anytime one of the diversity does what is predictable and stabs a bunch of children, again, in a copycat attack.
And you would just think, okay, we'll just change course so this doesn't happen. But they're like, no, the course is locked in. We're definitely having this, so we're going to need more prisons.
Yes, and we know that this is the strategy. This is not a conspiracy theory, and conspiracy theories keep being proven true, but we know this is the case because, I don't know if you've seen this, David Betts is an academic at King's College London. He's an expert in urban warfare and how civil wars break out, particularly between urban and rural areas along political, theological and ethnic lines. And he spoke to Louise Perry. My episode's actually out today, following on from this, talking about how the Home Office are using gaslighting tactics to prevent this from happening. So it's a sequel episode. He has said that Britain is basically on track, on rails for a civil war, and nothing's going to avert it because the government is not listening.
Yep.
And so they know this. And so what's their strategy? Well, he also spoke to Peter Whittle of the New Culture Forum, and I decided to do a little write-up of this on the Substack because of all the work that I've written for Lotus Eaters on Tomlinson Talks. Kind of feeds into this. But basically, Raiku, Keir Starmer, the Labour government, Prevent, all of this exists to unilaterally disarm the native British population as the narrative of what David Betts calls downgrading takes effect. As in, you are conscious of the fact that we are discriminated against in law, in culture, in immigration policy, that we have voted against in every election and referendum since 1974. And so what the government is doing is basically telling you, at all times, don't look back in anger while we're still going to do this.
Yep.
So, sorry to put a depressing end to my time presenting at the Lotus Eaters, but this is what I want
it's fitting.
This is what I want everyone to keep in mind, is that basically the government is waging a form of psychological warfare on us. They know what they're doing. It is very much a cover-up, and do not be gaslit out of wanting to defend what you love.
Islander issue 3 is now available to purchase from shop.lotuseast.com and is the next step in the story that we are telling with this magazine. For this issue, we have collected piercing and esoteric essays from the finest right-wing minds on the theme of our civilizational winter. Each of our authors is an expert in bringing forth the most important hidden revelations from the lowest reaches of the soul, and it has all been beautifully rendered in a medievalist revivalist aesthetic. For this issue, I commissioned a new translation of the ancient Anglo-Saxon poem, The Wanderer, and have written a companion essay exploring how it is a reflection of our modern experience. I personally feel that this is the most important thing I've ever written, so I will be looking forward to your feedback on it. We have resolved our distribution issues, with the magazines being printed in advance of the orders, so we can guarantee that you will receive your copy very soon after ordering it, and you will also receive email updates so you can see exactly where it is. Hopefully, issue 3 can provide you with the space and context to engage in deep reflection about the nature of our circumstances, to discover hidden truths about yourself and find the resolve to make it through our spiritual exile.